You have been doing everything right, and nothing changes. Every single morning you wake up and try even harder. You cut the carbs, tracked every calorie, hit the gym. You spent hours grinding away on that treadmill every session. The math seemed simple. Calories in, calories out. Always. You were disciplined, consistent, and followed every expert's loud advice. And yet, that belly fat hasn't moved even 1 inch. It sits there, stubborn, soft, inflamed, and permanently mocking you. That frustration you feel right now is not your weakness. There is a real biological reason your belly fat stays. It has absolutely nothing to do with your personal character. Something far more powerful than any diet is happening inside. Your body has activated an ancient, hidden survival mechanism now. While you burn calories, your internal chemistry gets different instructions. Instructions to hoard fat, protect it, and guard it fiercely. Your stored belly fat is treated as your most valuable resource. Understanding this at the biological level changes absolutely everything now. So let us go deep into what is actually happening. Your visceral fat sits wrapped tightly around your internal organs. It is not the same fat found on arms or thighs. This deep fat is chemically unique and dangerously misunderstood daily. It is densely packed with highly sensitive cortisol receptors inside. Think of those receptors as ultra-sensitive antennas scanning you constantly. They are designed specifically to detect even the faintest stress. While other fat ignores low-level cortisol, belly fat does not. It detects every stress signal, amplifies it, and responds fast. Every work deadline triggers your belly fat to answer immediately. Every bad night of sleep sends it into emergency storage mode. Every argument, every skipped meal, every anxiety spike feeds it. Here is where it becomes truly alarming and deeply important. As visceral fat grows from cortisol, it does not sit. It begins functioning like an independent organ with its own agenda. It releases inflammatory chemical signals back into your entire body. These signals loop back and trigger even more cortisol production. The fat tissue begins recruiting stress hormones to ensure survival. It is no longer just responding to your stress anymore. It is now actively manufacturing stress to protect itself from you. This is the feedback loop that almost nobody ever discusses. More stress creates more visceral fat growing larger every day. More visceral fat creates more stress hormones pumping through veins. The cycle is self-sustaining, relentless, and feeds on your daily life. This explains why some people eat little and still carry belly. Their lifestyle looks disciplined on the outside to everyone watching, but their nervous system is running in constant emergency crisis mode. Their body has been locked in emergency mode for too long. The fat vaults have been sealed shut, and the key is gone. Now here is where most people assume cutting carbs will help. Drop carbs hard enough and insulin falls and fat burns. In a vacuum, that logic is completely sound and makes sense. But cortisol does not care at all about your dietary choices. When cortisol is chronically elevated, it walks straight into your liver. It issues one direct command, and your liver obeys immediately. Your liver responds to that cortisol signal and begins dumping glucose immediately. Your pancreas detects the rising blood sugar and releases insulin fast. You are now fasted with elevated cortisol and elevated insulin together. Insulin is the master switch that completely shuts down all fat burning. Your fat stores are sealed shut and every lock is engaged. You have not eaten a single thing and you are storing fat. This is the invisible trap swallowing millions of well-meaning people whole. There are 3 specific patterns driving this devastating hormonal disaster inside you. Each one sends your nervous system a devastating biological emergency signal. The first trap is making long, moderate cardio your fat loss foundation. For decades, the message has been relentless and completely without mercy. Move more, exercise longer, log your steps, grind the treadmill daily. Millions followed this advice with complete dedication and got worse results. Here is the brutal biological truth your fitness magazine never shared. Evolutionarily, your body has a very specific interpretation of sustained effort. It does not read it as a healthy, beneficial lifestyle choice. It reads sustained moderate effort as a desperate famine march across terrain. Your ancient biology cannot distinguish between your treadmill and a starvation migration. In response to this perceived famine march, your body raises cortisol sharply. It suppresses non-essential functions and begins breaking down your muscle tissue. Muscle tissue gets converted into glucose through that same gluconeogenesis process. Because muscle is metabolically expensive, in a famine, expensive tissue goes first. As you lose muscle, your resting metabolic rate drops significantly over time. You burn fewer calories just existing, sleeping, and sitting every single day. Meanwhile, elevated cortisol is directing every bit of fat into visceral regions. You are literally dismantling your body's fat-burning engine with every long session. The scale might drift down slightly, but your body composition is worsening. You are trading hard-earned muscle for belly fat every single session. The second trap is fasting done in completely the wrong conditions entirely. Fasting is genuinely one of the most powerful metabolic tools available. It triggers autophagy, cellular cleanup, insulin sensitivity restoration, and hormonal recalibration deeply. But the right conditions matter far more than most people understand today. If your stress load is already high and sleep is compromised already, adding aggressive fasting on top of that does not reset your metabolism. It confirms your body's absolute worst fears about survival and incoming scarcity. When your body is under siege and detects no incoming nutrients arriving, it interprets that combination as confirmed famine and activates every protection mechanism. Your thyroid begins downregulating to desperately conserve every single unit of energy. Conversion of active thyroid hormone drops, and your extremities get cold. Your mental clarity fades, your energy crashes, and visceral fat locks down. In a true famine, your deep abdominal fat is the last reserve. It's the emergency generator your body will protect at any cost. The goal of fasting is to lower insulin and unlock fat burning. But if stress provokes cortisol to trigger a liver glucose dump instead, you are not fasting at that point. You are stressed and starving. Your body absolutely knows the critical biological difference between those two states. The third trap is the quietest and in many ways the most destructive. It happens while you're completely unconscious and believe you are resting. You fall asleep from sheer exhaustion somewhere around 10 or 11 at night. But somewhere between 2 and 3 in the morning, your eyes open. You are not groggy, you are wired, alert, and immediately anxious. Your mind begins cycling through tomorrow's tasks and every unresolved worry immediately. You watch the ceiling for an hour before drifting into shallow sleep. This is not just poor sleep quality. This is a metabolic emergency. As you sleep, your blood sugar naturally and gradually begins to decline. In a healthy, metabolically flexible body, this process is managed smoothly overnight. But chronic stress depletes your liver's glycogen reserves and compromises flexibility deeply. That blood sugar drop happens too fast, too far, and triggers your brain. Your brain perceives that drop as a genuine life-threatening emergency requiring response. It activates the adrenal glands and a shot of adrenaline fires immediately. Cortisol follows closely behind, designed to flood your system with emergency glucose. The adrenaline is what snaps your eyes wide open at 3 in the morning. You are experiencing a full fight or flight activation in complete darkness and silence. Not from an external threat, from your own metabolic system declaring internal war. The consequences compound themselves through every single disrupted hour of that night. You miss deep, slow-wave delta sleep where growth hormone is secreted powerfully. Growth hormone is the direct biological antagonist to cortisol, and they cannot coexist at equal levels. It builds and preserves lean muscle and specifically targets visceral fat for burning. By doing dramatically less volume at dramatically higher intensity, you get the hormonal signal you need. You build the fat-burning engine instead of slowly and painfully dismantling it session by session. Your nutritional approach matters just as much as your entire movement strategy does completely. The key principle is making your eating window signal abundance rather than scarcity to your body. When you finally do eat, protein must be the absolute foundation of every meal. Not an afterthought, not a side item, the first and most important priority always. Protein triggers the release of glucagon, a hormone that directly opposes insulin's fat-storing effects. It is the most satiating macronutrient, turning off hunger signals efficiently and powerfully every time. It provides the amino acid building blocks your body needs to maintain and build muscle. A practical target is 1 gram of protein per pound of your target goal weight. If your goal weight is 150 pounds, aim for 150 grams. If your fasting window is so long that hitting this number becomes impossible, shorten it. Widen your eating window and get the protein in without compromise or negotiation ever. A body adequately fed with protein reads the environment as safe, abundant, and secure. A body that genuinely feels safe and secure will finally begin releasing its stored fat freely. There is one final tool that costs absolutely nothing and takes only 60 seconds to apply. Before a meal, before sleep, or during any transition moment in your day, pause deliberately. Take 60 seconds and generate a genuine feeling of deep appreciation for something real. Not a thought about gratitude, an actual felt sense of warmth inside your chest. That shift is measurable and documented by autonomic nervous system research conducted worldwide repeatedly. Your nervous system transitions from sympathetic fight or flight toward parasympathetic rest and digest dominance immediately. Cortisol is chemically suppressed within minutes of that genuine parasympathetic activation occurring inside you. Done before eating, this improves digestive enzyme output and lowers your meal's insulin response dramatically. Done before sleep, it shortens the time needed to fall into deep restorative rest. Done consistently, it chips away at the chronic cortisol baseline feeding your visceral fat daily. It costs nothing, it takes 60 seconds, and it works directly on the hormonal mechanism. Now pull all of this together and see the complete picture with absolute clarity. Your belly fat was never a calorie problem, not even close to one. It was never a discipline problem. You were never the issue at all. It was always and only a hormonal signal problem happening deep inside your biology. Your body received chronic messages of threat, scarcity, and emergency and responded perfectly. It held on to its most strategic energy reserve because every signal told it to. The solution is not to punish your body harder with more cardio and restriction. The solution is to fundamentally and permanently change the signal you are sending it. You walk after meals instead of grinding through another long, punishing cardio session. You sprint briefly and rest completely instead of jogging endlessly on that unforgiving treadmill. You protect your liver glycogen overnight instead of triggering a midnight metabolic stress response. You eat enough protein to signal safety and abundance during every single eating window. You use gratitude deliberately and consistently to suppress cortisol and activate parasympathetic recovery mode. When you do these things consistently, something profound begins shifting deep inside your biology. The threat signal that has been broadcasting for months or years begins to fade.
The antennas in your visceral fat stop receiving a constant emergency broadcast every moment. The feedback loop that was manufacturing its own stress hormones begins to slowly wind down. The fat, having no more cortisol to feed on, finally begins to mobilize and release. The energy returns with a clarity and steadiness you may not have felt in years. The brain fog begins lifting, inflammation drops, sleep deepens, and mornings feel different. And that stubborn, immovable layer around your midsection that survived every diet you tried? The one that laughed at every cardio session you desperately threw at it before. It finally begins to respond not because you punished it harder into reluctant submission, but because you finally stopped speaking threat and started speaking the language of safety instead. This is not about doing more. It was never about doing more at all. This is about doing the right things in the right sequence with biological precision. Always speaking directly to a frightened metabolism and telling it clearly, the war is over.